Live from Lothal. Good morning, Lothal. It's the Unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Good Morning Lothal, the Unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. I'm Pete Salas, along with
Rolando Zamora.
How we doing, Rolly?
I'm awesome. I'm excited for this episode.
Me too, man. I could not wait to get here. It took a while. I was busy. I've been working all week on different projects, but I had to make time for this because this is not only huge because it's the second half of last week's episode, the left in the cliffhanger, but it is also the week that we have officially been blessed with Kenobi. Kenobi has finally hit us, and not only one, but the first 2 episodes were dropped. I was not expecting that. Did you know that was going to happen?
Yeah, I think where they really got me off guard though was that instead of dropping like at 2 a.m. our time, they dropped it at 11 p.m. our time. So totally shifted my schedule on the fly, but for the better. I got to watch it that night as opposed to early in the morning like I originally planned.
And you should have told me. I had no idea that they were dropping both of them. So it was a nice surprise because it also dropped the day before my birthday. So it was a badass birthday present that was bestowed upon me.
Just going to mention that. We can't leave that out. Happy birthday, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So today's episode is called Gathering Forces. Today's episode of Rebels is called Gathering Forces. But before we get into anything, it is that time where we humbly ask you all to please, if you like the show, please give us a rating. Please like, rate, subscribe, share it with a friend. It would be greatly appreciated. Both Rolly and I appreciate everyone. And moving on, like I said, today's episode is called Gathering Forces. But before we get to that, Rolly, what's happening around the galaxy?
Let's see what's happening this week in Star Wars.
All right, we got a lot of talk about today.
Yes, we do.
This is what I'm excited for more so than the actual Rebels episode, which was great. Don't get me wrong, the Rebels episode we're going to recap was awesome, but this week was the week to be a Star Wars fan. You just got hit with so much. So before we get to Kenobi, I'm going to start with Celebration because we've got so much. I didn't expect this much, but I'm going to let's go ahead and break it down. So I think the first thing we got, day one Celebration, we got the Andor trailer. So this is going to start streaming August 31st. It takes place 5 years before Rogue One. And basically it covers what Cassian from Rogue One, the guy that Diego Luna plays.
Yes.
What he's doing, at the beginning of the rebellion. In the trailer, they kind of showed a very young Mon Mothma who is still in the Imperial Senate. But she's basically one of the heads of the beginning of the Rebel Alliance. So, man, the trailer was pretty awesome because it's very different. It looked like a film, to be honest.
It feels like Rogue One. Like Rogue One felt different than any of the other movies in the Star Wars universe, but it did feel like that. It had that same vibe to it, and it makes sense because it's basically a Rogue One prequel. So
yeah, it was just kind of crazy because like it's a series, but you can already tell the production value from the trailer that it's movie production values. Something we'll get into with Obi-Wan. But yeah, so that was one of the big things. Another one of the big things before we get into the new shows, Mandalorian season 3. There was a panel. Grogu's back with Mando. I think everybody's excited to see that. They even made the Mandalorian logo like green to imply, I guess, like how big a role Grogu's going to be playing in this season. But what was really awesome from that, and I don't know if the fans that attended this panel knew that this was going to happen, but that panel actually turned into an impromptu Ahsoka panel for the show that's going to drop next year. So a little bit of a spoiler alert, if you're new to Rebels, maybe fast forward a bit for this one. But I do want to talk about it because it is a huge deal for the fans that they've already seen the show. They're up to date on everything. But the fans in person did have the opportunity to see stills of some shots. They've only been 3 weeks into production for the show, but they did confirm Hera, Ahsoka, obviously. Sabine was there in person, and there's a huge rumor that there was a still where they showed Jason Syndulla, who's the child of, again, fast forward at this point, if you have not fast forwarded, he's the child of Hera and Kanan. So, and they had Chopper there in person, the actual droid.
That filled me with so much joy to see Chopper in the flesh, in the mechanical flesh. come in, and that got me in the feels.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see. I know we're nowhere near a trailer, but I'm just really excited to hear continued updates about that show, because that show is very much the continuation of Rebels. And Rebels, Peter already knows. Rebels is, in my opinion, peak Star Wars. It is my favorite Star Wars entity. Period.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing. Okay, we still got a lot to go on Celebration.
Let's go.
Okay, so we had Bad Batch season 2 announced. Personally, I'm excited for that one.
I just saw the trailer, like literally 5 minutes before I started this. That's the last thing I watched. So that one drops in the fall.
I don't think they gave a hard date, but I don't know about you, man, but I didn't really get much from the trailer aside from
there's a lot of action, just
a lot of action, which I prefer. You know, that's what I liked about Obi-Wan, and I was blown away. I'm a huge Bad Batch fan. It's got the Clone Wars animation style. I loved the characters. I love season 1. There was some snippets of some returning characters from Clone Wars. I can't remember that youngling Wookiee's name. Yeah, but he showed up in the trailer, so he clearly survives Order 66.
Yes,
so
that's pretty cool.
And I'm curious to see, what's the next, what's really going on with Omega. That's what I'm hoping that they answer here in season 2.
Well, she's dressed more like outfit of a warrior kind of a thing. She's got some armor, and she's got a helmet on now, and like she's doing her little bow and arrow thing pretty good. So basically, she's been training. She's more than just like a little mascot. She's actually part of the team. More so.
And I'm hoping that they get into like, is she force sensitive? Like, I know a ton of fans are wanting to hear that question answered. Like, why is she Omega and why is Boba Alpha? I mean, there's got to be more to it than that. So anyways, we had a bunch of new shows that were announced. The first one was called Skeleton Crew. It stars Jude Law. And they didn't give much about it, but what I did read was that it's a coming of age show. It's going to feature like a crew of like young cast members, and I guess Jude Law is their leader. So I'm always kind of excited for a Star Wars product that is brand new. It's its own type of storytelling. I feel like that's what the Star Wars universe needs. I don't know about you. So
well, the name alone, just it's kind of mysterious. Like I can't apply that phrase skeleton crew, figure out what that means. Are they like pilots, or are they more? There's really no information. Is this based on like the rebel pilots? Is this based on like Imperial pilots or Jedis, or what? Where does this take place? The name alone is throwing me off. So, but I like Jude Law and everything he's in usually.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure that they'll be announcing some stuff here in the near future. Who give us some more insight into that. The other thing that got announced that I'm really excited for, and I'll explain why. There's a new animated series called Tales of the Jedi, and it's only going to be like 6 episodes long. I think they're like less than 15 minutes each.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the reason I'm really excited for this is because apparently what they said is it's going to focus on prequel era Jedis, specifically 3 episodes based off of Ahsoka and 3 episodes of Count Dooku when he was still a Jedi.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, I read I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, so as big of an Ahsoka fan as I am, they showed us still. So the Ahsoka episodes, the first one, she's going to be baby Ahsoka. She's with her family still. So it's got the Clone Wars animation. So that's exciting. Cool. Yeah, the second episode is a bit more of Clone Wars. It's going to be some type of adventure with her and Anakin. And the big one that I'm really excited for is the 3rd episode, because it's confirmed that is the episode where they're going to show where she fights. Again, spoiler alert for fans that haven't seen Rebels. That is the episode where she actually fights an Inquisitor and acquires her kyber crystals for her white lightsabers.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yes, and the reason I'm looking forward to seeing that is because if you guys haven't read the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston, highly recommend it. They explain how Ahsoka comes about her white sabers and the process of how she makes them white. Basically, to sum it up, is she purifies a Sith kyber crystal. Not Sith kyber crystals bleed red when they take them from Jedi. Well, she actually healed them, and that's why they turn white.
Oh my god. That's freaking cool, man. I was just about to ask you, like, how did you know all this? But then I remembered the book, and you sent me that link for the audiobook, and I never got it. So that's I'm glad you mentioned that too, because for any of you fans out there who haven't read the Ahsoka book, I highly recommend the audiobook because it's actually voiced by Ashley Eckstein. So she's the voice of Ahsoka Tano from the cartoons. So
if you listen to the audiobook, it's actually like you're listening to Ahsoka tell you the entire story. It's really adds a lot to the experience.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
And then the Dooku episodes, not to leave count him out.
I mean, that freaked me out when you said that. I cannot wait to see like a young Dooku and his decline into, horrendousness. But go on.
Yeah, so they announced Mace Windu and Qui-Gon in addition. I guess they're going to show up in those episodes. But what was really cool about the Qui-Gon edition, who I'm a big fan of, is there's going to be like a much younger Qui-Gon and then like a Qui-Gon that we know. So he's gonna be voiced by Liam Neeson, and Liam Neeson's son is gonna voice the younger Qui-Gon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, huge fan of him.
Wow, man, that's a lot. We're only halfway through this list.
Yeah, we're nowhere near done. So let me keep it moving here. We got another announcement for us. I don't know if they said it's animated, but it's called Young Jedi Adventures. And I haven't gotten into the High Republic novels, but it is confirmed that this is set during the High Republic, and it basically just follows younglings in their upbringing, studying the ways of the Force. So
this would be way before the main storyline, right? This is
just to kind of keep it simple. This is in between current Star Wars, which is Darth Vader, the Empire times, and then Knights of the Old Republic would be thousands of years before.
That's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry.
So the High Republic's in the middle. I haven't gotten into the novel, so I can't tell you right now how much further back it is. But it's after Knights of the Old Republic, so somewhere in between. Okay, it's actually I remember when they first announced it, Yoda is in those series, and he's a younger Yoda. Okay. I mean, Yoda dies, he's like 900 years old, so you can kind of put it in perspective, maybe figure it out, an estimate from that.
So Knights of the Old Republic is what I was thinking is, way in the past, but I got it mixed up with High Republic. Okay, well, that sounds interesting. Okay.
Yeah, cool. I'll definitely make it a point to read those before that series starts. I don't like going in there completely blind. Everything
that you've just listed other than Skeleton Crew, that's all animated, right? Animated series?
I don't know on the Young Jedi Adventures. I didn't, I wasn't at Celebration, so I kind of did a bunch of research on this, as much as I would like to have been, right?
Well, we'll keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, and then another fun one, Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation got announced for August 5th. I don't know about you, but I've seen a few of those Lego Star Wars things, and they're enjoyable. They're super funny. They're fun to watch, so I'll probably check that one out. That's cool. I did notice specifically for that one is there was confirmation that the Halcyon, which is the Galactic Star Cruiser 2-day experience at Disney World, that's going to be included in this show. So
wow,
that park attraction is actually canon. It's going through the storyline and all that. I know that it is canon. So whoever's been able to experience that so far, I think they have a bit more of the background of the story and such. The same way that Galaxy's Edge is canon too. All the storyline that's created for Galaxy's Edge is canon.
Man, I cannot wait to go to that. Honestly, we should really make a plan to get over there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping what could happen is they did announce Celebration next year is in Europe, which I don't think I can unfortunately attend. But I'm hoping what happens is since this year was in Anaheim, a lot of the fans, they went early to go to Disneyland, and they actually had events at Galaxy's Edge Disneyland during Celebration, like at night. So I'm hoping that in the near future they do one in Orlando, and we could basically knock it all out at once. Go to Celebration and go to Galaxy's Edge. That would be, I think, optimal.
Yes, absolutely.
And it would be your birthday weekend, assuming that they keep it during the same time.
That's true. Great point.
All right. So moving on, we're still not done. A lot of big for you fans out there that are huge fans of Jedi Fallen Order, the sequel got announced and the trailer was shown for Jedi Survivor. And what was the biggest thing I took from the trailer was that they showed the Grand Inquisitor interacting with Cal Kestis. So I'm excited to play that game and see how it ties into, the canon timeline.
I wonder if the current Grand Inquisitor, Rupert Friend, is going to voice it, or if it's going to be voiced by the original one from the series.
I think it was Jason Isaacs, right?
For Jason
Malfoy, Lucius Malfoy.
Yeah, he did the voice. So I'm curious who they're going to go with. I mean, since there is a Grand Inquisitor currently in current TV shows, or go with the old one. Depending.
Yeah, kind of thrown for a loop on that one based off of the ending of that second episode. So
yeah, we'll get.
I think we're gonna have to revisit this conversation.
Yeah,
and then that basically covers all the Star Wars stuff from Celebration. There was a lot of toy announcements. We'll have to get into that some other time. there's so much. If you're into Black Series, if you're into lightsabers, they just announced so much stuff. So I'm there having to tell myself no, keep my list like low. Like, okay, maybe you can get like a couple of Black Series figure.
Right.
The big one they showed was that third sister Reva's lightsaber, the Inquisitor saber. I want that so bad.
That is badass. That is badass.
Yeah, might have to just make a plan to save her that way. And I also wanted to splash. There was a couple more announcements from Lucasfilm, Indiana Jones 5, and there's going to be a Willow series starting in November.
I saw that trailer, man. I guess I didn't realize how cool like Willow was in my childhood memory. Like as soon as I saw him on camera, I was like, oh my God, I love him. I love that guy, man.
Yeah, I definitely need to go back and rewatch that movie. It's been so long since I've seen it. So
that guy, he is so funny. Like, have you seen that show Life's Too Short, where he comes out with okay, it's basically like a mockumentary where they follow him around in his life, and he's basically like a talent scout for other little people actors. But it's so fun. I highly recommend it. It's produced by Ricky Gervais, so it's really fun.
Oh, it's got to be good then.
It's hilarious. Life's
what
Too
was it
Short.
called again? Life's Too Short?
Life's Too Short.
Okay, that name makes it even funnier.
Right.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out. So before we get to Kenobi, one more thing. Got some birthdays I want to mention. Frank Oz, who is the voice and the puppeteer for Yoda, 78 years old, May 25th. The late Peter Cushing, my apologies, May 26th. He is the original Grand Moff Tarkin, who they actually also, I guess, I don't know what they did. They just digitized him.
No, that was great work that they did. Yep.
Yeah, that was kind of like
really
the
cool.
first major one we had seen, and I remember seeing it in the theater. I was like, it's Grand Moff Tarkin. Like, how's that possible?
It's
not alive.
perfect. Whoever they got to play him, his face shape was perfect, so they just had to digitize it on. But
yeah,
anyway, you know how I collect pops, and it's only like the Sith people. He's one of the exceptions. Who's not a real Sith, but he's part of my bad guy pop collection. Gotta have Grand Moff Tarkin.
Well, he's such a turd that I would qualify him as a Sith.
Yeah.
Just like screwing everybody over. Right, so
he pushes the button to blow up a planet. So
Yeah, there you go. That's
all you need to know.
Also, we had Sir Christopher Lee,
another legend.
Excuse me, the late Sir Christopher Lee.
Another legend. There we go.
Birthday was May 27th. Not much more I need to say about that. Not everybody knows he's Count Dooku. So yeah, a legend. And then last but not least, Paul Bettany. He played Dryden Voss in Solo. So his birthday was May 27th. He's 51 years old.
That's awesome. That's got to be special to be part of the Marvel universe and the Star Wars universe. That's
right. I always think of Ming-Na Wen, who played Fennec Shand in Book of Boba Fett. She's just like in every Disney
everything.
She's the voice of Mulan, so she's a Disney princess. She's Melinda May in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so she's in Marvel. Right. And now she's Fennec Shand.
Let's not forget she was Chun-Li.
And she was Chun-Li, yes, in Street Fighter. How can I forget that?
Yeah, that lady has been places, and she is a legend as well. Kudos to her.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be awesome for those actors and actresses that they just get to start showing up in all these entities that they know that there's just such a huge fan following for it. So I think they're just like living the dream. I know they're professional actors. I'm sure that there's other roles that they strive to do and get these like grand achievements for, but I have to believe also that most if not all of them are fanboys of something, or fangirls rather, so them getting to play characters in these movies is also an incredibly big deal for them as well.
Right. And to be worshipped by like a legion of geeks, like everywhere you go, you're something to someone everywhere you go, so that's pretty cool.
Exactly. You're going to be somebody's hero more so than maybe you thought you ever were going to be. All right. Speaking of heroes, let's get into it. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my
We got the 2-episode premiere. I'm excited to talk about it, but I've said enough. So I'm going to start with Pete. I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
What were your biggest takeaways from both the episodes? Any thoughts? Just let me have it.
Okay. It was amazing to see him back playing Obi-Wan, to see him back on camera in that role that only one man could play, young Obi-Wan obviously, and that alone it was like, because remember, I just recently revisited the prequels, so he's fresh in my mind as Obi-Wan, so it's kind of like this is episode 4 for me, episode 4.5, you know what I'm saying, or 3.5. Seeing this was like a culmination of many, many years of my own personal feelings towards the prequels, like I've stated in the past episodes, where they came out in a time in my life where I was not ready to accept them as anything but like, it's the prequel. It wasn't embedded in my, DNA as far as my love for Star Wars. But now that I'm older and I watched them again, now watching Kenobi, it was like, it just felt like a payoff. Like, I felt like I had given a lot into the prequels, and I know I might be making too much of it, but hey, you asked me. So, I paid a lot of myself and my fandom and my emotion and my time really into the prequels for not such a great payoff, overall. But just based on these first 2 episodes, like, I feel vindicated. I feel like, okay, now it's all coming together. Like just the recap at the beginning of the very first episode, it was like a 4-minute long recap where they literally recapped, episodes 1 through 3. And I was going to ask you, really, actually, do you think that maybe, I know it might have been weird, but they could have figured out a way to like wedge some Clone Wars dialogue or scenes?
Funny. It's super funny that you asked me that, because first of all, that recap that they did, I thought, man, again, we're talking about the prequel, so a lot of like toxicity attached to that. People were comparing it to the original trilogy, but if you just watched that recap, you hadn't seen Clone Wars, you hadn't seen anything. I saw it as like, man, they did a hell of a job summing up the prequels to the point where they cut out all the fluff.
Right.
And it was like, wait a minute, like that was actually better than just watch, in my opinion, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was very thought out, very well done. And again, going back to what you said, it was done so well. I was telling myself, wait a minute, are they gonna splash Clone Wars into this? Because if they had done it, which they didn't, I thought it totally would have worked too. It was
I think
that
so
good.
too. It really like. It might have, I guess they maybe, I'm assuming they had a production meeting about it and said, it might be a little jarring to go from live action to like cartoon and then to live action. But people like us, I think we would have appreciated it, because there was a lot of stuff in Clone Wars that they could have used, also little moments to help explain, the rift between Obi-Wan and Anakin that happened. But anyway, the recap, to answer your question, the long story short, that recap was awesome. From minute 1, I was hooked into this. Second one, honestly, besides just seeing him on camera, the little girl that they picked for Leia, she is adorable, dude. And I had to look her up because I was like, where have I seen her before? And then I remember she was the little girl in Bird Box. And I was like, I remember that little girl. And dude, when a movie can grab me to the point of like, they better not let anything happen to that little girl. That little girl cannot die. No. And it like gripped me because I fell in love. Weird sentence. I fell in love with this little girl. She was adorable. And then to have her play one of the most iconic characters as a little girl like that, I was like, this show rocks.
Dude, I was blown away. First of all, I wasn't expecting such a Leia presence in the show, because they didn't show that in the thing. It was like,
not at all.
But when she came out on screen and you just immediately recognized the aura, they hadn't said who she was.
Right. And
then they finally say, oh, she's Leia. And then she just proceeds to almost steal the show from Ewan McGregor, in my opinion. I was just like, please nobody hate out there on me, but I was never like the biggest fan of Leia. I liked the character. Right. It's just ultimately like, I wasn't a huge fan. I am a huge fan of Leia now, just because of these 2 episodes of Obi-Wan. I was just like, man, like she's Leia from like whatever age she was there, more so than I would have ever perceived her to be. It was awesome, dude. I hope that they show more of her, more of that attitude. But I love that line when Obi-Wan tells her, "You remind me of somebody," and he's clearly talking about Padme. But this is like Padme like times 1,000.
A lot of sass in a little body. Yeah, that's what it was.
Super good. Like I said, Leia, I can't say she was in my top. Maybe she was like number 10 in my top 10, right? No, she's up there now just because of this little girl. This is my favorite version of Leia. Like,
right.
Period.
The portrayal was amazing. Couldn't.
Yeah. So, do you have any other takeaways before I have one big one that I do want to get into.
Okay. So just seeing you in on camera back as Obi-Wan, the recap would grab anybody who has never seen the prequels, just like you said. And I would say Leia, the little girl, like, just, she was, the actress was perfect. She portrayed her perfectly. I could literally see Carrie Fisher, in her. So if you could do that, that's all you need. So those are my three. Yeah.
So young Leia was like one of my top threes easily. So we're going to go ahead and skip that one since we talked about her. Before I get into my big one is, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but this show beyond superseded my expectations. This had to have been the most hyped Star Wars show, period. Mm-hmm. But my fear was, we've already seen Mandalorian, which is great. We've seen Book of Boba Fett, which in my opinion took a step backwards. My fear was that this was simply going to be the third live action Star Wars show. Mm-hmm. I'm not, talking bad about Mandalorian. I love it. It's great. But this show needed to be beyond anything because Ewan McGregor is the highlight of the prequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. For all these other things you might say that didn't go right, I don't think anybody out there says that Ewan McGregor did anything wrong in those prequel. He was just so good as Obi-Wan, and he just killed it in this series from these 2 episodes we've seen so far. But my biggest thing about that was, again, it wasn't the third live action Star Wars story. This was easily the most top-notch production quality Star Wars product that I've seen that is not a movie. It was it was insane, and we only got 2 episodes. So I'm excited to see the next 4 episodes, and so far, again, my expectations were just smashed. So one of the biggest things I did want to mention, and I think I recognized this the very next day after I was still processing. Dude, I literally spent the whole next day processing after I saw these 2 episodes. Like, I wanted to start Stranger Things immediately, and I didn't. I was like, I'm still processing Obi-Wan. And I'm not that type of person, but maybe because we're doing a podcast now, like, stuff's just getting harder for Star Wars. So, which is totally awesome.
No, it is. Definitely.
Yeah. So I was having a discussion with a friend, and it clicked. I was like, wait a minute. Again, the people that have seen the show, Obi-Wan is clearly not himself anymore. He went into hiding to stay alive. He advised all the other Jedi to do the same things to survive. And then when his time was going to come to train Luke, he would not reveal himself, but he would go back to his normal ways.
Right.
Okay. So they showed like at least a couple of scenes in these 2 episodes where he's like beyond, hey, I'm not just in hiding. Like, that's no longer me. He has that conversation with that young Jedi who ends up getting like killed, unfortunately. And he tells them, you want my advice? Walk into the desert, bury your lightsaber, and move on. It's never gonna happen anymore. It's over. Like, start a new life. And that was the first scene they showed, and I was just like, whoa, okay, that's not the Obi-Wan who is like, I'm gonna go into hiding, protect Luke, and train him when he's older. He was already losing himself. And the other scene I'm remembering is when Bail Organa reaches out to Obi-Wan to help him rescue Leia, and he's just like, no, you gotta find somebody else. Yeah. It's just like, he's clearly not the same person anymore. And then like, even when he tries to save Leia, he can't access the Force. He had disconnected himself from the Force so much that it changed him as a person. Right. Well, I don't know if anybody else made this connection, but tell me what the difference was between that and Luke in The Last Jedi. Right. It just cuts himself off from the Force completely, and he goes into this deranged hermit mentality. Right. Like, the scene where Obi-Wan tells the young Jedi, walk into the desert and bury your saber, it reminds me of the scene, the very beginning of The Last Jedi, when Rey hands him the saber and he just tosses it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So I've been a huge fan of the depiction of Luke in The Last Jedi. I know that there's a lot of fans that out there like it, but I also know there's a lot of fans that don't like it.
Yeah, it was a very polarizing portrayal of Luke. Even Mark Hamill wasn't happy with it.
Yeah, even he wasn't happy about it. But when I saw Ewan McGregor, basically the same person in Obi-Wan, mind you, the circumstances were different, right? Because of Order 66. Nonetheless, I don't think Obi-Wan's intent was to disconnect himself from the Force so much that it changes him as a person, but it did. because it totally changes his identity, and the same way Luke's identity is changed in The Last Jedi. It takes Rey to rescue him and bring him back to reality, the same way that, I'm sure, I don't know who's going to bring Obi-Wan back to reality. They haven't shown. Maybe it's Leia. I don't know who it is.
It's got to be Leia. I mean, especially in that scene where she's falling, presumably to her death. Yeah. And, he literally forces himself to like catch her and save her.
Yeah.
So she's going to be I really do feel like, I think the next 2 episodes are probably going to be heavily involved with him, getting her back to where she needs to be, back with her parents, and the Inquisitors chasing him. So yeah. I think that we're going to see more Leia and Obi-Wan.
And I don't want to leave this out. I'm just going to throw this in at the very end. The ending with Vader.
Yes,
that was awesome. I honestly think the next episode might just be a full Vader episode, which I would be all for.
Oh, absolutely. I am all about that. Now,
and last but not least, sorry, go ahead, Pete.
And just while you just mentioned Vader, I was going to ask you, and I completely forgot last episode while we were leading up to it. Obviously, Vader, there was one flash appearance of him at the end of episode 2, but the voice. Do you think that they got Edward James, almost, my God, excuse me. That would be a very different take on
James Earl Jones.
Yes, James Earl Jones to come back and voice him again, or has Disney figured out how to literally recreate the voice to make him sound a lot, bassier and younger?
I don't know. That's a good question. I definitely need to look into that. I guess we'll find curious. Out too, maybe.
Right. I was going to ask you last week, because I thought presumably he was going to have more dialogue in this one, but we will find out. I mean, I would love, nostalgia-wise to have him, but I mean, Mr. Jones is like over 90 years old at this point, so.
Yeah, I don't want to. Last character, definitely don't want to leave out Reva, the third sister.
She was awesome.
Beyond impressed with that. Yeah,
thank you for saying
that. I absolutely loved that, and I can't wait to see for them to get more into her backstory, because one thing that a friend of mine made me quickly aware of that I totally missed. She knows that Vader's Anakin Skywalker. Yes. Nobody besides the Emperor is supposed to know. And Obi-Wan, obviously, that Anakin is Vader. So why does Reva know that Vader is Anakin?
Right.
That's a question I want answered, and I want it answered now.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that, because I guess that would be like number 4 on my list. I loved her portrayal of Reva. I can't remember the actress's name right now, but
I think it's Moses Ingram.
Thank you. She crushed it. It had been a long time since we've seen a legit bad guy, driven by kind of like a Maul, driven
we were
by
talking about Maul last week.
This hatred of, and this desire to catch the one. It's almost like, I mean, I'm projecting, but she might be in love with Darth Vader and wants to impress him, and this is her way of look who I caught and I brought you on a silver platter kind of thing. That's what I got from it. And she was willing to do anything to get this done, including going against the Grand Inquisitor's wishes. So
yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm leading to. I don't know if you wanted to say that, but the ending, we alluded to it earlier. Do you want to mention how spoilers how episode 2 ends?
When she betrays the Inquisitor, when she stabs him.
She killed, presumably. I don't think he's dead for good.
Again, I think obviously we'll find out what the deal is, because the Grand Inquisitor does show up in Rebels, but it seemed that Reva issued him a killing blow. It wasn't no normal stab. That was straight through the heart. Right. So is it the same Grand Inquisitor? Now, I had a friend ask me that, and I'm like, that's a good point. I don't know. So
wow, I didn't even think about that it's not the same Grand Inquisitor. Wow,
I'm gonna play the safe card and say that it is. I'm not. I enjoy listening to friends when they tell me about theories. I myself don't like to craft theories. I don't know. That's just me. But I do like listening to them, and then even more so when they make sense. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, no, I didn't even think about. There possibly is a second Grand Inquisitor that shows up in Rebels, but anyway.
More importantly, episode 3 drops on Wednesday, not Friday. So we are going to get answers to these questions much sooner than later. So lots to process this week.
Yes, absolutely. Man, that was overload for a second. I need to process.
I don't even think ever remembering getting that much Marvel product in a week, as much Star Wars product as we got in 1 week here.
Right. Maybe we got a trailer or two or an announcement, but like this was a lot of stuff that they dropped. They really took advantage of the Kenobi hype to make Star Wars, the Star Wars brand itself, like top of mind awareness in everyone's mind. Excellent job by putting together, the team that put together Star Wars Celebration. Excellent job. Mission accomplished.
Definitely.
So moving on to what we're all here for. This would be the Star Wars Rebels Rewatch podcast. And Rolly, hit us with a synopsis of episode 9, Gathering Forces.
So in this episode, the Inquisitor continues his pursuit of the Ghost Crew. While developing a plan to get Sibo, who we met in the previous episode, to get him to safety and get the Inquisitor off their trail, Ezra grapples with the true fate of his parents and whether it is something he wants to truly find out from Sibo. However, does Ezra know that this knowledge is directly attached to his connection with the Force?
Okay, so it was a good last one ended with a cliffhanger. This was an excellent way to kind of bridge that gap and close the loop on that story. What did you think of the episode, basically?
I thought so. Last week I mentioned that you asked me, "What do you think is going to happen in this episode?" And I was like, "It's part 2."
Right.
And I commented how sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised when I don't remember. I was pleasantly surprised because I definitely am one that forgets a lot about Ezra's parents, and this episode was all about Ezra's parents. Ezra coming to the realization that he needs to know the fate of what happens to his parents. And at the end of the last episode, Sibo said, "I know what happened to your parents." So I didn't remember anything from it. And when I watched it, I was like, this was actually pretty awesome, because it turns out that Ezra disconnecting himself from his past was actually hurting his training. So that was the big reveal of the episode, not to skip to the very end.
No, that's fine. So basically the show starts like most shows start. The Ghost is hauling ass down space, and here come a whole bunch of Imperials and TIE fighters coming after him. And
they're still being chased by the Inquisitor from the end of the previous episode.
Ezra tells Sabine that he already knows that his parents are dead, but proceeds to question Sibo what happened to his parents. They took Mira and Ephraim Bridger away. Sibo was supposed to raise Ezra, and he didn't. And he asks Ezra for forgiveness. And of course, Ezra's upset at the fact and basically calls him a coward, which was not very cool, but
Yeah, so again, there's an argument there. Sabine's actually part of the conversation. She's basically grilling Ezra like, why don't you want to have anything to do with Sibo? He knows the fate of your parents. And Ezra's cutting her off like, I don't need to know. I already know they're dead. Which he doesn't, because Sabine leaves to go help man the Ghost as they're being attacked by the TIEs, and Ezra proceeds to question Sibo like, what happened? And Sibo basically tells him, I was supposed to raise you and I failed. So Ezra gets pissed off, and he's telling him like, well, you failed both my parents and me. You could have prevented their deaths, but you also weren't there to take care of me like you promised them. Big way to kick off the episode. The episode kind of goes on, and again, they're being pursued by the Inquisitor on a TIE fighter. Well, the Inquisitor actually shoots like a tracker onto the hull of the Phantom, which is connected to the Ghost. The Ghost takes off through hyperspace after Sibo kind of directly inputs hyperspace coordinates to the Ghost. So that happens. They're taking off through hyperspace, and they're having Sibo proceeds to tell them, hey, you're being tracked. This is a type of tracker that can track ships through hyperspace. So the team basically begins to create a plan where they're not only going to get rid of the tracker, but they're also going to get Sibo out of the grasp of the Imperials, because he's filled with all this knowledge since he has the cybernetic circuits connected to him.
That bought some goodwill with Hera, because she was kind of questioning like, who is this guy and why is he on our ship? Can we trust him? And all in one motion with him like connecting with it, it gained a lot of favor with Hera. I did notice that. So she's cool with him. Yeah.
So when they're making that plan, Kanan basically develops a plan to, they recognize that the Phantom was shot with the tracker. So they're like, well, all we have to do is get rid of the Phantom, and we can get away. Well, Kanan tells them it's not that easy, because since him and Ezra have already encountered the Inquisitor, he's hot on their trail specifically. So even if they ditch the Phantom, the Inquisitor through the Force can sense that they're still on the Ghost, so he's going to chase the Ghost no matter what, and not just chase the Phantom, because sure, the Empire's after Sibo, but the Inquisitor is after Jedi, so he's going to pursue the bigger fish, and he's going to go after them regardless. So what Kanan decides to do is him and Ezra are going to take the Phantom, because through hyperspace they're actually passing the old clone base where the Fernox attacked Sabine and Hera in one of those previous episodes. So he's going to take the Phantom to there. He doesn't say why, but he says that that's the plan, so that Hera, Sabine, Zeb can get Sibo to safety while they're distracting the Inquisitor. So really cool scene. They ditched the Phantom out of hyperspace. They landed on the planet, and it turns out that Kanan specifically chose that planet because he recognizes what's going on with Ezra. Like Ezra's struggling to connect to the Force because he is not owning up to his past. And basically what ends up happening is he's going to get Ezra to train these Fernox through just throwing him into the deep end of the pool, so to say.
Right.
Yeah, so they land. Ezra's like, Kanan's telling him the plan, and Ezra's freaking out. Like, I'm scared, man. Like, what are you doing to me? And Kanan's like, well, you know, he basically tells him it takes a big man to admit that you're scared, and you're actually taking a step forward in your training by doing that. So their plan is to train these Fernox to attack the Imperials once the Inquisitor and all them catch up with them. But again, he's gonna force train Ezra to connect with the Fernox so he can control them. Super funny scene because he basically tells Ezra, start controlling them while I get the tracker off the Ghost. And there's kind of a throwback to Rogue One. Ezra starts talking to himself. He's like, I'm one with the Force, while he has his hand out trying to control them. Right. Throwback to Rogue One with I forget the character's name, but he's played by Donnie Chen.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. That's a great line.
Yeah, which they also used in Clone Wars. That Ahsoka repeats that when she's taking the inhibitor chip out of Rex. So
that is definitely a mantra that I've used in the past to get me through some situations. Honestly, no joke. So anyway,
so while all that's going on, they cut back to the Ghost, and they show the Ghost meeting up with Fulcrum on one of those Corvette Star Cruisers. That's the ship that is at the very beginning of A New Hope. I don't know how to describe the shape, but
it's like long and has a bunch of like the exhaust ports in the back. Right?
Yes.
Is that the one we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah. So they meet up with Fulcrum because they're going to give Sibo basically over to the Alliance. And it was funny because, again, there was tension in the team with Sabine earlier because she was like, well, you haven't told us who Fulcrum is. And same thing kind of happens here. Sabine and Zeb are like, well, can we meet Fulcrum now that we're here? And she's like, no, basically just going to have to chill and wait on that.
Right.
So as Hera's escorting Sibo back or to Fulcrum, she starts having a conversation with them, and that's where it's revealed that Sibo didn't join the Imperials to learn information, to help the rebels. He actually joined the Imperials as a way to make up for the fact that he didn't commit to his promise of taking care of Ezra. He joins the Imperials to get wired so that he can find out what happened with Ezra's parents. So a lot of information there. Hera tells him, well, can you tell me what happened to Ezra's parents, and I'll relay the information back to him. So they don't show that, but he does end up telling her. So they get Sibo to safety. They cut back to the Inquisitor attacking Ezra and Kanan.
Right.
At this point, Ezra has figured out how to connect with the Fernox, so they send the Fernox after the stormtroopers while the Inquisitor starts attacking them. He gets into a duel with Kanan, which is kind of a really cool fight scene, and he ends up defeating Kanan. Kanan kind of gets knocked out for a bit, and at that point, Ezra starts getting emotionally unstable because his mentor is knocked out. He's fearing for his life, so he confronts the Inquisitor himself. He takes Kanan's saber, and the Inquisitor immediately force pulls the saber out of his hand, which is it tells you how much, how experienced Ezra is against an Inquisitor. Right. At that point, Ezra starts getting even more upset, and to the point where the Inquisitor recognizes that he's channeling the dark side of the Force, his emotion. So he starts speaking words to him like, I can train you better than, your master can. He starts trying to convert him like he previously did in one of the earlier episodes. Right. Of course, at this point, Ezra's even more connected to Kanan, so he's not having it. So he gets so upset that he actually starts channeling the Force and summons an incredibly large like giant Fernok that was kind of like lurking in the background. At that point, Kanan's already waking up, and he tells Ezra, "What are you doing? Stop!" He knows what's happening. Like, he's at risk of like experiencing the dark side too much that he'll fall for it. With that much power that he's channeling, Ezra actually passes out, and Kanan has to rescue him whilst the giant Fernok is attacking the Inquisitor. So fortunately, of course, they're able to get out of there. We're blessed with more Rebel storyline. And Kanan proceeds to explain to Ezra that if his will isn't strong enough when he opens up to the Force, he's going to become vulnerable to the dark side. And that's why the Inquisitor was trying to get him to convert then and there, because he saw his opportunity. So after he explains that to him, Kanan apologizes to Ezra for basically not properly preparing him for that. Ezra's getting much more advanced in his training, and Kanan now needs to expose him to like bigger stuff, and more specifically here, the risk that Ezra has that he can at any point go to the dark side if he starts.
The vulnerabilities, if you're not focused on what you're on your training, you open little windows, little cracks that the dark side can come in, and if like the Inquisitor saw that, like you said, and was trying to pull it out, trying to make it stronger. So that is definitely that's part of it. It's not just using the Force, it's not just lightsaber, it is controlling your emotions.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw it early on in that episode when he saves Zeb. He uses his emotions to launch Callus forward. At that point he was still so raw, so I don't think he had any sense that, I'm using the dark side here. But I did mention that, I remember, and this is kind of now exploiting that. It's showing like, okay, now he's made aware of the dark side.
Yes.
You can no longer just like use the Force out of pure emotion. It has to be controlled. He had to disconnect from he had to accept the truth about his parents in this episode, forgive Sibo, for him to be able to open up to the Force to control the Fernox. Well, now that he's open to it, he now needs to learn how to control it. So that actually takes us to the end of the episode. Ezra and Kanan get back to the Ghost. Hera's about to tell Ezra the fate of his parents, but Kanan cuts him off. It's like, hey, he's had a long day, he needs some time to himself. So Ezra goes and sits in the Phantom, and it was a really cool scene. Sabine goes up to Ezra and she tells him, hey, I found this holodisc back from the previous episode when we were at your original house, and I cleaned it up and I found something you'll like. So she puts it on the computer, and a portrait of baby Ezra with his parents shows up, and Ezra's clearly really happy, and Sabine wishes him a happy birthday, and that's how the episode ends.
What a perfect way to end, with like this dream girl giving him a badass present, a very touching present, and wishing him a happy birthday. Like, that was a great way to end that loop, that little story.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, oh great, that's just gonna give him a reason to keep trying to pursue
to love her even more, as if he could. Overall, a good ending to that story. We still haven't found out what happened to his parents or what the situation is, right? I mean, that was never revealed.
I don't remember if they're going to reveal it in a future episode, but based off of the acceptance of Ezra and them not saying, or them not showing Sibo what happened, I think the implication is that they are dead, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was really a cool point that earlier in the episode he called him a coward for not being able to save him and save his parents, and we find out that he willingly went into his situation with the intention to help Ezra. Like that was never not on Sibo's mind of protecting Ezra somehow, or trying to find out information to help him, so that was cool. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Good Morning Lothal. I know it was very heavily packed at the beginning with all the current Star Wars stuff, and we're finding more and more. Rolly and I have talked, and we've talked to friends of ours that you guys are really enjoying the current Star Wars talk a lot. And of course, this is a Rebels rewatch podcast. We're going episode by episode. We're still going to keep doing it. But with so much happening in current Star Wars day and in current time, how can we not talk about it? So I'm glad that you guys are listening either way, no matter if you like the first half, the second half, whatever, as long as you're listening. So while I got you, once again, please like, rate, and subscribe. And if you are a traditional podcast listener, we are on all the platforms. Just search Good Morning Lothal, the unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. Anything else you want to add, Rolly?
Yeah. To my friends out there and all the other listeners who, like Pete mentioned, might be enjoying the first half more than the second half, stick with us. I can tell you, season 1 of Rebels is the slowest season. Once we get into the next 3 seasons, you're gonna enjoy both portions of the episode, because there is so much connection to all the other Star Wars medium once we get into like season 2 and forward. And once it starts, it goes full force, and it's just like it gets better and better and better. So I know some of these episodes, they kind of seem like, I don't really like listening to this portion of it because I didn't really enjoy this episode of Rebels. Mm-hmm. I'm just reassuring you guys, stick with it. Like this show is, in my opinion, my favorite Star Wars media for a reason. Like, it is that good. So just take season 1 with a grain of salt. Enjoy the moments that are enjoyable, but know that there's so much more ahead.
Okay, so if that's all we got to say, then let me remind you guys that next episode, we are now in double digits, episode 10, and it's called Path of the Jedi. That name alone sounds very intriguing. So until then, I'm Pete Salas, along with
Rolando Zamora,
saying, may the Force be with you always. Goodbye from Lothal.